Let me tell you a story about Andrew Hallam. He actually rented his way through his wealth building years and was a middle school teacher in BC, Canada, and making a very modest income. Today, he and his wife are in the top 1% with a net worth over $11 million. In fact, at age 36, Andrew achieved millionaire status, and by the time he reached 40, he had earned his financial independence. And let's just clear the air and make sure you know that he never inherited his money and he didn't win the lottery. So then how did he manage to become a millionaire while renting an apartment and on a very modest salary? At the young age of 19, things started to click for him while he was saving money for college and working at a bus depot. That's where he met Russ, the head mechanic there. Russ asked him what he would do if he just handed him $10,000. At first, Andrew was excited because he actually thought for a second that he might just do that. He knew that Russ really liked him, but would he actually give him 10 grand? After a moment, reality set in and his initial excitement wore off, so he said he would actually put it towards his schooling. Russ smiled and was very impressed that Andrew gave such a wise answer and decided in that moment to take Andrew under his wing. You see, Russ later explained that if Andrew had planned to spend the money on something frivolous like a new car or a flashy trip, he wouldn't have given him the time of day. But that simple answer to put money towards schooling set a course in Andrew's life that few of us have the luxury of experiencing. Russ became a financial mentor to Andrew and taught him about how to build wealth through investments and emphasized the importance of financial literacy for achieving retirement. Concerned about this lofty goal, Andrew said that he didn't have enough money to start investing. Russ pointed over to the vending machine at the bus depot and asked if Andrew could afford a muffin and a chocolate bar every day. Andrew nodded his head and said sure I could. And of course, this was all Russ needed to whip him into shape. Russ's reasoning was simple. If Andrew could spare $3 a day on snacks, he could certainly put $100 a month towards investing. He went on to tell Andrew that by consistently investing $100 a month, he could retire as a millionaire. Inspired by this advice, Andrew embarked on his investment journey. Throughout his college years, Andrew actually held various jobs and continued to invest every extra dollar that he could. At one point, he even took out a loan to cover his tuition expenses, allowing him to put his earnings into investment accounts. Upon graduating, he had around $12,000 in student loans, which he determined to pay off within the year. Starting his career as a middle school teacher in British Columbia, Canada, Andrew's annual take-home pay was only about $28,000. And to kill his student loan debt and further invest, he became frugal, very frugal. In fact, today he doesn't necessarily recommend the extremes that he went to, but admits that he was crazy ambitious and did have a little fun with being crazy frugal. Here's what he did. He spent his first year as a teacher house sitting to avoid rent expenses. And when he eventually moved to his own apartment during his second year of teaching, he chose a low-cost option that required a 34-mile daily bike commute to work because he didn't want to spend money on gas. He also cut back on his food expenses by consuming way too much pasta and potatoes. Andrew says he even gathered clams from the beach for protein to help ensure he had a balanced diet, of course. And with this level of being frugal, you can imagine that he actually did succeed in paying off his $12,000 in student loans within only 9 months of graduation. Andrew continued to invest. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, I just asked one small favor. Please give me a thumbs up and hit subscribe if you're feeling extra generous. And eventually he consolidated his entire portfolio into index funds, which offered more consistent returns. By his mid-30s, Andrew had read over 400 books on personal finance and investing. He recognized that while some people or stocks or mutual funds might occasionally outperform the market in the long run most often comes back to beat them. By the age of 36, Andrew reached the magical $1 million moment when he became a millionaire, and by 40, he had secured his financial independence. In 2003, just 3 years before reaching his millionaire goal, Andrew met his wife, who was also a teacher. They married 5 years later, and only 6 years after that, they both decided to quit their jobs so they could spend their time traveling the world and enjoying their freedom. Today, they're worth over $11 million, which puts them into the top 1% category of wealth in North America. Now that's worth talking about, a man who didn't do things the traditional North American way, but instead opted to rent and invest every extra dollar he possibly could. Well, let's go back to Russ's advice for a moment, who initially told young Andrew that he could become a millionaire by only investing $100 a month. What would that look like for you if you also invested $100 in an index fund every month? Let's look at a Vanguard Fund, VOOG, which is an S&P Growth ETF. Since inception, it's showing historical returns of 14.45%, but this inception date was after the 2008 housing market crash, which would have affected the returns. If we just use the actual index, the S&P 500, it would have shown returns of 9.9% over the last 30 years. If you were Andrew's age of 19 when you heard this advice and invested $100 a month, by the age of 65, you could have $927,000, and that's with the lower returns of only 9.9%. And that's if you never once in your life put an extra dime more than $100 into the investment. And let's face it, most of us probably spend more than that each month on clothes we never wear, or even just sitting at the drive-thru for coffee and breakfast. And let's also point out that if you were investing these funds each month and seeing your wealth actually build, you'd probably be motivated to put more than just $100 in your investment each month. And what if you actually were receiving the returns of 14.45%? Investing $100 a month at 14.45% over the same length of time would become $4.2 million. Here's what those numbers would look like if you were investing just $200 a month. With the 9.9% returns, you would have $1.8 million. And the 14.45% return, you would have $8.3 million. That's way more than most people would ever dream of. That's incredible and can definitely change your life and your family tree. And let's not forget that Russ took the time to invest in Andrew. So don't forget to invest in someone else along your journey. I'll put a link to Andrew's book in the description below, and if you want to become a successful investor, make sure you check out my video on investing for beginners, since I'm guessing you don't have time to read 400 books. Thank you for watching, and if you want to learn more about this stuff, please give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more personal finance and investment videos.